he is not picking his phone, so I don't know if he's ready to join.
Okay. This is the open meeting of the Design Review Committee is being conducted remotely, consistent with Governor Baker's executive order of March 12, 2020. Due to the current state of the emergency in the Commonwealth due to the outbreak of the COVID-19 virus. In order to mitigate the transmission of the COVID-19 virus, the town of Northborough has been advised and directed by the Commonwealth to suspend public gatherings, and as such, the governor's order suspends the requirement of the open meeting law to have all meetings in a publicly accessible physical location. All members of the Design Review Committee are allowed and encouraged to participate remotely. The order allows the Design Review Committee to meet entirely remotely so long as reasonable public access is afforded so that the public can follow along with the deliberation of the meeting. The public is encouraged to follow along using the posted agenda unless the chair notes otherwise. Members of the public who wish to view live stream on this meeting may do so by going to Northborough Remote Meetings on YouTube via the link listed on the agenda. Ensuring public access does not ensure public participation unless such participation is required by law. This meeting will not feature public participation. I'm now going to confirm member access to this meeting. Members, when I call your name, please respond with the affirmative. Lisa Maselli. You need to turn it off. Yeah.
Here.
Tom Reardon.
Here.
Diane Nicholas.
Here.
And Dave Buron.
Yep, here.
Thank you. The chair will cover the ground rules for the effective and clear conduct the meeting business as follows. For presenters and applicants listed on the agenda, the chair will invite each speaker or applicant on the agenda by name to make a presentation and speak to their application. Participants will provide their full name and hold until their name is called. Each speaker will be asked to mute their phone or computer when speaking and clearly and in a way that helps generate accurate meeting minutes. Those responding will be asked to wait until the floor is yielded to them by the chair. Speakers who wish to respond to the comments of others do so through the chair, taking care of identifying themselves. Each vote taken by the board or committee will be conducted by roll call votes. Okay, so I believe we're about to begin, and our first applicant is on the 1 Lyman Street project. And it looks like Vito has arrived. Good morning, Vito. You're on mute. You have to unmute yourself.
There we go. Sorry about that.
Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning.
Okay, and then we have Jeff. And Jeff, you would want to unmute yourself.
Hi, good morning.
Okay. And Jeff, do you want to introduce yourself? Because we know Vito is is he your architect or no? Vito is
the engineer.
Engineer.
Yeah.
And then Jeff, if you want to introduce your architect.
Sure. Rock is our architect, and Dave Warren is the landscape designer for this project. And Vito, as you introduced, is our civil engineer for the project. And so I'm the owner of Cable Matters, which is located currently in Southborough. So we are planning to build a warehouse and office building on 1 Lyman Street.
Perfect. Thank you. I appreciate it. Okay, so
And I have to recuse myself from this.
Yeah.
As a board member, I'm on the other side.
okay, so let's see. You could mute yourself, or Jim could take you out either way, and then we'll bring you back in when we finish with this applicant. So I don't know what he's going to do with you, but you want to mute yourself. Yeah.
I'm muted.
If
Okay.
you can hide your video as well, I believe that
Yeah.
is very helpful. And then, Madam Chair, there's another Vito C in the waiting room. I don't know, Vito, is that your other computer as well?
Yeah, I was trying to get onto my computer. So
Not
right now I'm on my phone, so the computer would be better.
Perfect. Yeah, I'll let you in on that as well.
Okay. All right, great.
Okay.
Thanks.
So Jim's going to let Vito in, and Dave, you're going to take your video off and just sit there quietly until we resume and call you back in. Okay? So you need to take your video off.
Okay, all right.
Okay, we're just waiting for Dave.
Yep.
It's down below called Stop Video. Okay, you're good. Okay, so we have your team here now, Jeff, Vito, and Alok. Is that correct? I don't want to mispronounce your name.
Yes, that's right.
Okay,
Hello.
great.
Yes, thank you.
Alok. Okay, Vito, you're on,
Okay, all right. Do you want me to share my screen?
please.
Okay. Okay, so the site's 1 Lyman Street. We're on the corner of Lyman and Bartlett, right here. I'm sure most of you probably know the site, are familiar with it. Right now, there's a single-family house on it. Go down the existing proposed plan here. So there's an existing single-family house right in the middle of the site. This is Bartlett. There's Lyman on the side. The overall parcel itself is 4 acres. It's consisted of a few separate smaller parcels, but combined it's overall 4 acres. There's a wetland over here in the back that flows down, goes under Lyman, down to the pond up north of us here, or actually west of us on the screen. The site itself is in the industrial zone, and it's also within the groundwater overlay 1. So the proposal here is for a warehouse building for Jeff's company, Cable Matters. They basically receive kind of cables, adapters, that kind of stuff for computers and other accessories. So the building itself would contain about 17,000 square feet of warehouse area, and then also 6,000 square feet of office area. And we proposed a driveway, a circular kind of driveway off of Bartlett and Lyman. The main entrance would be off of Bartlett, and this would be your kind of main in and out. And we have parking around the edges, kind of hidden behind the building. We have 45 parking spaces, which falls within the zoning allowances. And as you come in, you kind of wrap around, and then delivery trucks, there's a loading dock back in here. So those trucks would come in and pull out. And this would be an exit only on this end, essentially just for use when these are used. But the main entrance, both in and out, would be off of Bartlett. We've designed the site with the septic system up front, and most of our drainage goes underground in the front here. And then we also have a infiltration basin in the back on this side. We can kind of scroll down. That's kind of a quick overview of the actual site layout. And then get to the landscaping in a minute, but we also have the site lighting plan that was submitted. This is kind of the intensity schedule. We don't have spillover out into the roadway. We have, except right at our aprons, which is kind of what you're looking for, right here and right there. Other than that, it's contained within, the site. It doesn't spill out on the street, causing glare for motorists driving by or abutters across the street over in this area. I think they're all LED lights, about the 4,000 warmth. And then we have, I'll switch over, just trying to give a quick overview. And then this is where the renderings of the building look like. This is your view from Bartlett Street, looking at that main entrance coming in. And, we have the sign up front, parking on the side. This is what the building would look like from the front. And it's kind of just another view from here. This is a view looking, this is where you're standing on the corner of Bartlett and Lyman right here. So we have a nice, landscape buffer on one side. It's a nice looking building from the side. We have a lot of, windows on this side. This side is kind of, less windows. It's kind of the side of the building. This is more your front presence out on Bartlett. And this is a view from Lyman Street itself. looking towards the side of the building. Right. And then I don't know if you want me to go through the landscaping or if Dave wants to jump on to go through the landscaping.
Yeah, so we usually break this down into 5 parts,
Okay.
site plan, the design of the building materials, the lighting, signage, and landscaping.
Okay.
So let's probably start way back up to the first rendering that you had on site plan. We'll work through the board on this. And
Okay.
then, if everyone's in agreement with this, we'll move on to the next one.
Sounds
Or if
good.
there's some work or whatever you need to do.
Okay.
So to the board, he's presenting now the site plan for the building, and then we'll go through Tom and Diana and Lisa for your feedback.
Good morning, Vito.
Good morning.
I was asking about the entry points. I'm assuming you talked to the fire department and the police about sight lines and distance from the intersection. Is that one of the reasons why the configuration is this way?
We didn't talk directly with them, but as part of site plan review, they'll review it. But we do like to get it as far from the intersection as possible, so you don't have conflicting movements. Right here we're about 200 feet from the intersection here to the intersection here. So yeah, we generally do try to push them as far as we can away, and then this also gives you that nice circulation through for fire to get right around the whole building. They have basically 4 sides of access.
So you have 2 front yards then?
Yeah, they would classify as 2 fronts.
So you're at 50, and is that 62?
Yeah, I can zoom in here. Whoops. Yeah, we have 62 on this side, and then about 52 on this side. Yes.
So in terms of all the dimensional requirements, this building is in conformity in terms of setbacks?
Yeah, and there's a bunch of setbacks, especially on this side, because we have this is the building setback is 40 feet.
Yep.
But then we also have a landscape buffer setback, and then we also have a zoning district setback. So we comply with all 3 of those requirements.
So are you asking for any kind of waivers or variances or for the site planning portion?
Yeah, we did go to ZBA already for a use variance, just because it's in the area 1, groundwater overlay 1.
Okay.
It complies with the industrial zoning district, but we did need a variance from the area 1.
And how about exterior signs? I saw one on the rendering. I didn't see one on the site plan. Is there?
Yeah, we should probably add that on. They had a sign down
It's
in
near-
the
Near snow storage?
Yeah,
Okay.
so we'll probably edit that up like you're saying. We'll probably
Okay.
throw that sign there, move that storage around.
So how about dumpsters or mechanical equipment?
Right now, we didn't have a exterior dumpster area. We could probably find a spot. Most likely, I would put it back in here if we do need an exterior one. I'll ask Jeff and the architect whether they're going to be storing anything interior, because they do have the overhead doors and everything. Whether they're going to store it inside or if they do want an exterior. I'll put a note for that.
So in the photometric plan for the lighting, I don't see any light fixtures on this plan.
Yeah, we had left it on to the lighting plan itself. We could coordinate the 2.
All right.
One.
Is it mostly poles or are they on the building?
They have a mixture of wall packs and poles. So they're gonna have poles around the perimeter on this
Okay.
side, and then also wall packs around this side.
So the rendering of the exterior is different from the site plan. So that front entry looked like it's bumped out
All right.
with the glass, but I don't
Yeah, if that's the case, then
see that right there. Go back. See
Whoops.
that bump out on the
Yeah, I do see it,
landscaping plan?
Yep, I see that. We'll have to get the updated architectural.
And I didn't see in the renderings the view of the loading dock area.
Okay.
So we're just trying to get the drawing is internally consistent and fleshed out.
Yep.
So
No,
we
yeah,
can get all these odds and ends addressed, but
that sounds good. Okay.
but I certainly agree with the location of the building. It's the difficulty is it's a sensitive site, being on the corner or the edge of industrial and residential. So I think we're going to need to discuss that in more detail, but I'm all set for now.
Okay.
So for the site, I don't have too much more to add to what Tom said. I'm a little unclear on the accessible path of travel from the accessible parking spots.
Okay. The
Maybe that's because the entrance isn't shown on the plan.
the
But,
entrance is right here,
uh-huh.
and the handicap spaces are right in front, right there.
So is there a sidewalk that will connect directly to the entrance? That's what that, okay. So that hits
There's a
it.
sidewalk here. Originally, the door was there, right
Mhm.
there, but now there's a bump out right here. So there'll just be a sidewalk that connects right in.
Okay. I don't have any other site plan comments.
Lisa?
Well, the only thing I can ask, I guess, is if the dumpster does go outside, is that not supposed to be screened with the fencing like all the other ones?
Yeah, it would have. If we do put one outside, it would be screened.
And what will, I mean, it's not only sensitive with residential and commercial, but with Amazon down the street, the residents of Bartlett and Stirrup Brook and a few up there are already concerned with the amount of traffic that's going to be coming up and down that street. And Lyman Street is going to be far more used than it has before. We're going to have 1,400 employees, and I don't know how many trucks are going to be up and down there. So how do you think that's going to impact your getting in and out of your area?
Oh, how that development would impact us?
Yeah.
I don't see it as being a huge impact. For this operation that they have here, they don't have a huge number of deliveries in and out. I believe what Jeff had told us before, it was only a few deliveries a day, if that. Most of their distribution goes directly from consumer. You order on Amazon, it goes directly through Amazon. So they only have some of their distribution through this actual facility here. So they don't have a large volume of traffic generated here. So, the conflicting with the Amazon down the street, I don't think should be an issue.
How many employees does he expect to have?
Let me answer this question, Lisa. So currently we have 9 employees in Southborough, and
Okay.
we do expect to grow the employee force, but probably within 20 in the next 10 years. So it's the employee-wise, headcount-wise, will be kept within 20. And with regard to the traffic, we just use the warehouse as a intermediate buffer. So we send our goods to Amazon warehouse, and they do fulfillment for us. It's a so-called FBA program, fulfilled by Amazon. So we don't get the customers visit on site to pick up goods, or we don't do deliveries ourselves. So it's mainly daily pickup by UPS or USPS. So there will be 2 weeks from USPS and UPS a day, and so the traffic would be very much minimal. And it's what we are doing now, and we'll keep doing that.
So basically you're almost a distribution center, as well as your warehouse is more of your distribution center for your product.
That's correct. But then, as I said, we don't have other trucking company to come to pick up our goods. It's limited to the public. To the UPS and USPS. We don't even do business with FedEx or any other carrier. So it's very very limited. So when UPS come pick up, it's usually either half truck or in some days it will be really full truckload. And so it's really confined the business routine. It's not dynamic at all. We only have 9 folks working here. They're all office workers mostly. Then sometimes we have part-time warehouse worker for seasonal. I mean, it's really, the traffic-wise, I would say it's really minimal.
Okay, and the rendering is beautiful. Is it to size? I mean, will the building look that big on the lot?
Can we wait until we get to architectural to
Yeah.
talk about the renderings? Is that okay?
Yeah. So, Jeff, I just want to recap. So, you talked about that you're only going to have 2 deliveries a day. I'm assuming maybe one in the morning and one in the afternoon.
Mhm.
And it's done by either UPS or USPS, which is very limited in any type of traffic. And that you have 9, possibly up to 20 employees. On your 6,000 square feet of office space, is that where your employees are going to go? Or are you thinking about expanding on that somewhere down the line?
We don't expect to expand the office space. The 6,000 seems to be a little big for our employee force, but we have a big testing room. Actually, it has full of computers and TVs. So we are in a business for connectivity products.
Okay.
It covers the whole computer, consumer electronics, and the communication. So yeah, it will be a big test room in the on the first floor. The second floor will be mainly the office office space.
So it almost is like you have a multifunctional building, which you have office space where somebody, you have employees there, you have like a lab that you'll be using, and then you've got your warehouse for your distribution. So it's 3 components of that building.
Yeah,
correct?
you can say so. Yeah.
Okay.
The lab is unlike those pharmaceutical lab. It's all dry. It's just the testing.
No,
the function of
yeah.
the cables.
Yeah, I'm thinking to what you were describing it as a technology lab where you have, PCs or other forms of video, whatever connectivity that you're describing, not a
Right.
lab for, testing for drugs or manufacturing or anything like that. I completely understand that. So,
So can I ask a question about that?
Sure.
Jeff, the testing room, is this a higher standard, like a clean room, or is it?
It doesn't need the clean room. It's just a normal office building, and then just do bunch of mounting of the TVs on the wall. Some setting some surrounding desks to place those computer, the pads, and in some cases we test even phones. So we make cables to make connectivity possible. So yeah, it's you can say that it's just the normal office for the testing.
Are there any combustible or hazardous materials involved?
No, nothing like that. It's a consumer facing product. We don't do intermediate product. All of our products are available to purchase on Amazon.
Okay.
Okay, for the sake of time, and I know that you're coming back for a second meeting, so we'll try to give you as much as feedback so that you can make your second meeting as productive as possible. We just looked at the site plan. Why don't we just move on to Tom? I think it was interesting your comment, and then also Lisa's and Diane's comment, which might be 2 different, coming at it from 2 different ways on the design of the building. You commented it's a residential industrial area, so that you got to look at the design. Can we look at that now? I mean, does the board agree that they like the design, or does the board agree they need to go back and blend it better with the residential area that's over there? Can we sort of get a consensus for that? And I think that will help the applicant move forward on his design for the exterior of the building.
Well, I would say it's because of its on the edge of both industrial and residential, and this is a highly trafficked intersection, the shock of this building in the midst of a residential area is going to be hard for the community to take. And the the nature of the office building design doesn't offer many overtures towards the residential context. I mean, this building would look fine any place else in the industrial zone, but you got to remember where it's located. So this could be next to anybody's house because of the unique juxtaposition of the industrial and residential zone. So in spite of the quality of the rendering, I think the scale and the flat roof, ribbon window style architecture is diametrically opposed to all the surrounding residential areas. So I think that's an issue that needs to be discussed.
Okay.
So I do agree that you have to acknowledge the site location between these two districts. For me, it's less about the architectural style, but more about the scale of the building. So I think there are a number of ways that could address that. Because it's a warehouse, I'm not a huge fan of putting on, sort of residential looking forms, like tacking them on. Perhaps the building massing alludes to residential a little bit more. But especially the long facades without the windows, I think, and we just dealt with this on Southwest Cutoff, part of it is about breaking up the scale of these long facades. And I think that project may be a good one to look at if you want to understand a little bit more about kind of the direction that we took that one. It's also used for storage. It's a different type of storage, but so I think, again, scale is my biggest issue. I also wondered if the trees there on the right are to scale or if they're just very young.
I think those are young.
Okay.
Do you know what that name of the project was that you're referencing, so we can look it up?
Somebody remind me the address.
Like 50 Southwest Cutoff.
Yeah.
I don't know if I use
Vito.
that as an example.
Yeah. Vito, we also did this is going back a long way, but I remember CVS downtown when it had the second story, it's not really there. We just broke it up, the roof line with that, and we added those artificial windows throughout. I agree that I think that'll break up the mass on the side of the building,
Okay.
And then Lisa, your feedback on that, so we can give them some constructive feedback so they can be productive when they come back again.
Well, again, I ask, if this is the building, is this scaled to the area, to the lot? If we were to imagine it on the piece of property, is it going to have the 2, 4, 6, 8 windows on top in this picture that we're looking at right now? Or is that just, how is the rendering put into the lot so that we have a better understanding of how big that actually is?
So this is Alok Dhanda. Can I jump in now?
Yes, absolutely.
Hi. So I took the civil engineer's site plan and developed the rendering on it. And so to that extent, it is accurate. I did take some architectural liberties about adding the tower, which is now not reflected in the civil drawings. But at the time, I took my inspiration from what Jeff Chiang, the client, liked in terms of an aesthetic and how he envisioned his company. And so we developed the aesthetic of the building, with insulated metal panels and curtain wall, et cetera, to reflect the, modern nature of his business. Understanding that it's along a residential zone, a fairly detailed landscape plan and lighting plan have been developed to ensure, minimal disturbance to the neighbors, both visually by breaking up the facade, not in the architecture as much, but with evergreens and landscaping. And in terms of the proportions of the building, sometimes these perspectives are taken assuming that you're standing in the middle of, Lyman Street and Bartlett Street. So that's your physical location, with eye height being approximately 6 or 7 feet. So that the mass of the building you're seeing is true to that extent.
So it's a 3D model. Like
It is a
built
3D model.
it in Revit or something, right?
Yeah, it's
something similar. Yeah.
rendering software.
Okay.
The sun angles are fairly accurate in terms of, the facade that you're looking at in the image on the screen, where you have most of your office does face north, and so it doesn't get a lot of direct sun. The facade that faces Lyman Street would get your low west, sun angles, and so we'll make sure that the metal panels, et cetera, are not overly reflective.
Ooh,
I'm
that's
sorry?
an interesting thing. All right. Well, I understand. I mean, reflective may be a little difficult too. I mean, it's so industrial. It's it's a beautiful building and I love how it's rendered, but it's tough on that corner and it's a big piece. I mean, is there land on the other side that can't be used because of groundwater? Is that why all that land to the left of that plan is?
Yeah.
I'll let Vito address yeah.
So that's all unusable land.
Yep.
It's big and it's modern, and if it's metal and there's reflection off the walls, I think we have to look at some modifications.
I'm sorry, the metal panel is the physical structure of the panel. It always has coatings on it, and the coatings can be adjusted to make them as non-reflective as CMU. So I don't think that the material per se is the issue, because you can tamper with that in the material coatings. But the idea still is to be, a modern building that is reflective of the client, in this case, cables, electronics, and all that. Understanding that it's abutting, residential zones. I know that suburbia is different than, living in urban centers where, you're close to high-tech buildings all the time. So this is certainly a matter for, the town to let us know how they feel. And I'd love to take a look at 50 Southwest Cutoff. Was that correct? The address?
Yes.
I don't know that I think that's a great example.
To help us understand your concerns.
So I use that as an example because of the way that we started with a long warehouse facade and we changed the scale. So that's why I recommended that one, because I still think that's going to be
no
a
residential.
issue.
Has no residential look.
It has some, based on the things that we added. So it may not be a specific historical residential style, but it does have residential scale.
Oh, scale, perhaps.
So just so we can wrap this up for yourself and give you as much feedback as possible, and also to the board members, I think you'll always find that one building that is the introduction to industrial and also merges with the residential is the toughest to blend, because are you trying to make it look more residential or more industrial? It's a hard one because it's the last one on the block, and then the next house is residential. So it's always tough because that's what happens when you abut industrial land. So only thing I would suggest to the applicant is if you can look around the surroundings and see with your creative design if there's anything you can bring in. And then if not, we'll just have to discuss it at the next meeting. So at the next meeting, we did talk about signage, and you have to have it on your plan, which was not on your plan. So you have an exterior sign. It's going to be exterior lit or internally lit. You'd need to decide on that. Landscape, we just briefly looked on. If you want to take a few minutes, we can have Dave present on the landscape, and so that you'll have feedback to go back to that. Your lighting plan, again, we need the light fixtures, what they're going to be on the building, and we asked for more materials on that. And then the design of the building, I think, is something that we're going to be working on with you. And site plan seemed to work. That's where we look for our town engineer and staff's feedback on that. So hopefully by then they can give you more feedback on that. If we can just, for the time's sake, let Dave Veron come back in, explain his landscape plan, and then we'll wrap you up at 8:45 so we can move on to the next applicant. But do you feel like, Vito and Jeff, that this is significant enough information for you to go and make some changes, and then come back and talk to us at our next meeting?
I mean, from the site plan end, yeah, I think it's fairly straightforward, adding just basically coordinating those couple items.
Okay.
More from the architecture, and I'm not sure if they have enough to go on block. I don't know if you have got enough feedback on what you need? I think so, but
What I find really difficult is that, oftentimes when we're looking at an aesthetic, it is, it's like what I am paid at the Louvre. You're designing a new museum in an old setting, and you say, I'm going to be true to the time and go with something that is modern and doesn't try to be something it's not. That is the part that I may struggle with. So any examples that you can float my way of buildings that manage to do both, and yet, not completely have the client stuck with an aesthetic that doesn't, quite sum up what he is all about and what his company is all about. Because at the end of the day, this does, reflect his interests too, become a flagship for his company. And so those would be my concerns, is, in trying to sometimes satisfy everybody, you satisfy nobody. So we will work on any ideas that are brought our way. I'll definitely look at the address that was provided to me, and I'll try to also scan and see what else I can find in suburban, the Metro West, to see if there are any other buildings on this specific type of line that give us some direction. But I tend to find it difficult to blend two different.
Yeah, I think you said it well, and I think, from Tom, Lisa, Diana, myself, and Dave, as well as staff, if we can find some examples that exist and work well in the community now, we should send that on to you so that you have something, so that you can see visually where we're coming from. So I agree with you on that. So thank you for making that attempt for us. I appreciate it. Okay. And so let's go on with Dave. Are you still there?
I'm here.
Okay, so if you could just explain the landscape plan, and if there's any feedback on that, they can give that, and then we'll wrap up this meeting and then move on to the next applicant.
Sure. Basically, I knew this is a very tough spot. This is, I think, the second or third time I've designed this for different people going through. So whatever was going here, I knew was always difficult. So what I ended up doing was basically trying to hide the structure no matter what it is. So along Lyman Street, I put an evergreen screen in, which will actually go to 30 plus feet high, spaced out. So over time, you're not going to see the building. No one will. On the corner between Lyman and got the name. Bartlett there. I did a very creative planting in the corner of the building. It's actually year round. We'll give different color variations, and I put 3 Betula nigra, which is a birch, which really interesting structure as far as the bark and the actual tree itself. Which, if you go back to the 3D diagram that was there, you don't have those in there. And obviously, it would take away from this shot right here. That would really soften the architecture there, because basically you got a big box. So we're trying to soften the architecture. And even in that box diagram, if you go to maturity, you're not going to see most of this box. It's going to be pretty well hidden. But you're also going to have a lot of color going on and a lot of interesting features happening. And that's the design of this landscape here. And that evergreen wall will come in, if you take a look at this diagram that we're looking at right here, it's going to come much further in on the Lyman Street side, on both ends of it. And into even the driveway here. Again, I just really went overboard as far as giving as much of a home feel as I could to a commercial structure. You're not going to find many commercial areas having this much landscape into them. But again, I was trying to appease everybody as far as this property goes, because I knew how touchy this is. Again, going along Bartlett, did the same thing as far as just kind of really making it feel home-like. And again, same thing with the entrance there. Even along the entrance to the building here, again, rectilinear building, not a lot of space along the walkway there, but again, trying to make it very interesting, aesthetically pleasing, softening the architecture as much as we could, and doing what we could within the space that we had. So that's the general design in the 2-minute time frame that we have.
Can we update the renderings to show that? To show those?
Yeah.
I think that would go a long way in how we approach the building.
So for the next time, can we have the landscape plan updated with the renderings? Because it'll show what Dave was alluding to, was that by using the landscape to soften the building, may come back with, you know, the feedback from the board members on how to approach the building. And
Yeah, both the right and the left would get really encroached, and then even those windows, you're not going to see them.
Yeah, there's a
All
big,
gonna get packed in.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Dave and I can work on that. I have a limited selection of trees and landscapes that work with my software. So I will work with Dave to see what we can do to kind of merge some of the information he has into my rendering software.
And because even if we go to the 30 to 40 foot mature height, those guys on the right-hand side, you're at 15 foot of floor, you're over the top of that building.
you'll be up here, and they extend a little further up here.
Exactly.
The
And even on the
building
left-hand
height that you're
side.
looking at now is approximately 28 feet. It was about
Yeah, so you-
14
you're
feet.
over that building height.
So the trees that are shown are probably the size. What size trees do you think you'd be planting, Dave?
We can go for anything that he picks. You know, usually I like to plant in the, 8 to 10 foot range, but I mean, we can do anything. It's up to the budget and what's pulled out there. I don't really like
It's
planting.
the best chance of
too
surviving
huge.
when replanted. I mean,
Right.
8 to 10 foot is what we went with the rendering. And so we were showing day one what it would look like. We could try
Exactly.
to come up with a rendering that shows, day, whatever, 5 years from now, what it may look like.
Exactly. That's kind of like new planting right there. Everything right in here. We don't have the birch trees against the corner. You're kind of showing this is kind of day one minus, like this planting in the corner would be much bigger.
Okay.
You're missing trees on the left. I mean, you're not going to see, I understand you want to show the building here, but you really want to show it, 5 years in, you're not going to see much of this building.
I was going to suggest that maybe the architect and landscape designer collaborate to enhance the building rather than Dave's trying to hide Alok's work. It seems like you're at cross purpose. Like you have a corner feature of the building with glass, which is something you want to draw the eye to. I wouldn't put tall trees to block the architectural feature. So I'm suggesting you guys collaborate to have the landscaping enhance the building rather than block the building.
Yeah.
What do you think, Alok?
Well, I mean, Tom, I hate to put in all this effort to only have it blocked, but on the other hand, you're looking at a big, gigantic warehouse building. There are not that many that, we point to in architectural magazines outside of, what you end up doing at Neiman Marcus and in big, retail storefronts, but we don't have the luxury here to put signage and curved, this is a utilitarian building. I think as utilitarian buildings go, it's smart, it's clean, it's using materials that don't require, constant upkeep and painting and things, a lot of maintenance and things of that nature. So I think a certain amount of green camouflage is not a bad idea, especially because across the street you have residential. That's always something nice to look out at. But I do agree that the corner, you're making a statement that here we are, we're entering a industrial district and look, we're putting up, smart, good looking contemporary buildings. And, the scale of this is not that bad. Actually, you could go up to 60 feet in this zone. It may never get approved, but at least for what's in the zoning documents, this is a light industrial use. So it all depends on, what the neighbors will accept or reject. If there's something that you could show me that they would accept and be happy with, we could try to adjust the design.
It also seems like, I think the glass corner, I think Tom's point is important about you're blocking that. I also am just thinking about the occupants of the building because you have that nice glass and they're really not going to, enjoy it if it's shaded or fully hidden by those trees. So
we're facing north, and so you're not going to get a lot of sun, and the trees are not going to block too much of light view. Yes, and so we'll make sure the trees aren't suffocating the building. There will be enough space to get reflected light, etc. But yeah, David and I can go back and forth a little bit and tweak the design. But most importantly for me is to see ideas that that the design review committee is already. Sorry, hey buddy, can I get 2 minutes? 2 minutes. Yeah. This is what I'm dealing with. Just for
Hey, hi. Okay.
It's another computer. I needed this for this meeting. I'll be right there. Just go.
Yeah, so cute.
Okay.
Life goes on.
So, take inspiration from her shirt and, you know, make a really creative pattern down the side.
Yeah.
But I understand. I mean, if I was living in a residential zone, you're always worried about, you know, we have somebody who wants to put up a gas station and you know, a drive-in coffee area across from the residential zone down the street from my house. And so I understand the concerns. Any input that I could get from the design review committee, who's done this many times before, to help guide us would be very helpful. And we'll
Okay,
go from there.
all right.
But I
Okay.
certainly support the Dave's strategy of structuring the plantings in terms of scale and diversity of color and seasonal, you know, emergence. I just would like to see maybe a little more integration of where the plantings are and using, if you have a long blank wall, that's your backdrop to your planting. So it frames it rather than just these two systems that are not really working together. If that helps.
Okay, so we're at 8:53. Sorry to wrap everything up, but we've got another applicant that's waiting. I'm hoping Jeff and Vito and Alok that you've gotten enough information to come back at our next meeting. I'm not quite sure we have another scheduled meeting. I know we have one that's with Judy Barrett, but I don't know if we have a meeting after that. But we would need to, do you know how long it will take you to get the stuff together? And then could you be able to present at our next meeting?
I'm sorry, when would be the next, is it a month from now? When's the next meeting typically?
Yeah, I would say it's probably going to be sometime either the end of February or sometime in the beginning of March. And we usually look for them on Thursday mornings.
I'm gonna forget you outside.
You know, on my side, at least, getting the landscape coordinated with the landscape designer and to get the footprint of the building resolved with the civil engineer, you know, those types of coordinations, absolutely we can. In terms of really modifying the aesthetic of the building, would depend on, you know, the feedback that we receive in terms of, or if I can find images of aesthetics that, you know, would help us move towards the right direction. So we can definitely coordinate. We can definitely get the landscape, you know, into the renderings, things of that nature. In terms of really modifying the design, both in terms of volumetrically, you know, modifying it, or in terms of materials, that I'll learn as I go a little bit.
Okay, so could I just ask from a procedural standpoint, Bob? Do we need to confirm a date with them coming back now, or does it have to be done in this meeting, or can it be done afterwards?
Good question. I think we can probably, you know, just continue it to the next posted meeting,
Okay,
you know, at a mutually agreeable time.
okay. So let's do that. We're going to continue to the next meeting whenever we post it and it's an agreeable time. And I know Kathy Jubit will be in touch with you at that point, and we'll make sure that she gets some data back to you to help you with the design that we were talking about, or some examples. How's that sound?
Could I make
Okay.
one suggestion?
One more, that's it.
So, look, you don't have to do another polished rendering. If you took this view, say, and sketched up some possible ways of addressing the massing without devoting a lot of time of recreating a full-blown rendering. I mean, we can work with you on that.
Okay, Tom.
All right.
Or just actual elevations will also, you know, help
Okay, yeah.
as well.
What do you want, Lucy?
Okay.
What do you want, Lucy?
Okay.
Hey, what's up?
All right,
What?
thank you
You
so
want
much. So
Thank you.
thank you, Vito. Thank you, Alok, and thank you, Jeff. Have a good week, and we'll see you in a couple weeks.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay. So Jim, if we could take the Lyman Street applicants out of the meeting and then bring in the West Main Street applicants.
Okay, I'm gonna stay. Don't take me out.
I recuse myself.
Okay, so Tom, you're going to be presenting at the meeting, so you'll just turn off your video and your sound until we're ready to have you call in, and then, or you're going to start presenting all the way through, right? That's what you're going to do?
Yeah, I'd like to hear Vito's
Okay.
landscape layout.
Okay, so Vito, you're part of this applicant as well?
Yes.
Okay, good. Okay, and we have Raquel and Mark, welcome. Can you hear us? Yeah, welcome, thank you. Okay, so we made a lot of progress at the last meeting. We're gonna come back and we can either start with Tom or Vito. But let's start back and going again down the list that we talked about with our site plan, the design review, the lighting, signage, and landscaping. So I'm not sure who wants to start first.
I can start that way. I think most of it was related to landscaping anyway.
Okay,
But we did update the site plan. And this is actually the landscape sheet that I'm sharing now. So we added a couple of the items that were asked to be added was the abutting buildings. So these are the two abutting buildings, just to show the proximity to the street and how this building kind of comes right in line with these two. It kind of matches the adjacent areas. So we did add those on there. And then the only other item, the rest of the site plan, essentially, we didn't really have to update much on there. Our updates came more in the shape of the landscaping plan. We added in, the limits of the mulch beds. And then also we revised this side. This is kind of what was discussed last time, mostly of having, some deciduous trees with some intermittent ornamental grasses that could take the snow plowing over them. Since this is an area between two parking areas, it's a tough area to plant up. So we kind of took those recommendations and edited that area up. We just proposed the lindens just because they're typically a fairly hardy tree and can take a lot of different conditions. And then the ornamental grasses can get plowed over in the winter time and don't get hurt like an evergreen would. Those were the only changes that we really needed to make on the site plans and landscaping. So I'm gonna go through that before we move on.
okay. So we'll go around again. We've got Dave, you're our landscape architect on the board, as well as Diana and Tom and Lisa. Feedback on landscaping, because this was probably the primary thing that was outstanding from the last meeting.
Looks good to me.
I think
Okay,
the updates were incorporated effectively, yeah.
okay. Tom,
The,
Lisa, either one.
I've recused myself,
Tom
remember?
Oh,
can't
that's right,
talk.
sorry about that. My problem.
There's a notation of 1.5 caliper on those new trees. What actually is that size? I tried to look it up to find some sort of a reference.
Oh, inch
So
and a
what-
half.
It's
Yeah.
an 1.5 inches of what? Is that the base
Oh.
of the tree?
That's
Yeah,
the
it's the-
thickness of the
Trunk.
trunk.
The trunk of the tree. So those are pretty tiny when you're putting them in right now, right?
Not really. That's a decent size for that space.
So how tall would it actually be?
Depending on the lindens, probably 8 to 10 foot.
Yeah, I would assume.
Okay. Because I noticed that they're nice and full. They come out in a nice full fashion. And those are deciduous, I would imagine.
That's right.
All right, and there was a correction to be made on the plan that didn't get made where it was listed as it should be a 1-2 bedroom.
Yeah, I know. Tom noted that after I sent these in. We changed it on the plans that are going to go into ZBA. It
Okay,
doesn't affect our parking count though.
all right, so, and then the roof material, there were some things, I watched the meeting again last night, and there were a lot of things actually I had questions on, but what's the roof material gonna be?
Yeah, before we go on, I just want to make sure that we can check off and say everything. So everyone's in agreement with the landscape design for this building?
Yeah,
Okay, all right, so Lisa, you want to move on to design of the building materials?
Yes.
Okay,
So we're going to go with the roof material being the roof is a major part of this building. Are you doing architectural shingles? Are you doing metal? What are you doing for roof materials?
In my description that I gave to Kathy, I described it as asphalt fiberglass roof shingles, architectural style,
All right.
in black or dark gray.
All right, I prefer the dark gray. I think the black is so dramatic, such a long area. All right, so what's the roof height? There's nothing on these plans with any numbers. I don't see a roof height. I don't see a building dimension, a footprint, the room sizes. There's nothing there for me to reference.
Well, this is a preliminary presentation. I can provide you any kind of dimension drawings. The drawings submitted, the floor plans are at a 1/4 scale. The elevations are all at an 1/8 scale, so they're easily verified. The roof height for this proposed building is 31 feet, which is the average grade to average roof line. The ridge is 40 feet. And the allowable height in downtown business is 45 feet. So we're about 66% of the allowable height with this building.
So you're saying the ridge is 40?
The ridge is 40.
All right.
And the floor height is it still 10.6 on the
Yes.
drawings?
We have
Okay.
16-inch floor trusses. So we have 10.6 from floor to floor.
And then you
So-
have 8.2 in the attic.
9-foot
or the third
ceilings.
floor. Yeah, okay.
So you have 3 floors at 10.6 and 1 at 8.2 being the attic, or no attic?
There's no attic. The upper floor of the apartments is under the roof, which you could call the attic, but there's nothing above that.
All right, so at this point, these apartments are 2-floor each. One is going to have a 10.6 and one is going to have an 8.2. So there's no extra storage involved in the apartments. Is that correct? Because there's nothing in the basement and there's nothing in the attic.
Well, the storage is within the units themselves.
Just
These
like
are
just like home storage, like closets and things like that, right?
Well, if the owners of the building want to rent space in the basement for occasional storage for tenants, that's up to them. But right now we have no attic storage
Okay.
available.
All right, that's fine. All right, so then as I look at the plan and the footprint, it almost falls within exactly the same footprint as the last presentation that was made. And if that's the case, and we're up to 40 feet, it's almost what we were doing before when we made the comments of the proposed building is maxed out with footprint and height. And it's a little too tall and too big for the site, the way it's located. Do you not think it's the same as the other one that was presented in terms of all that space?
Well, I think the comments of the previous building related more to the fact that they did not follow the design guidelines. The entry was not facing the road, it was facing the parking lot. The front elevation was not detailed, and we had a 40-foot high gable of vinyl directly on the road. The roof was not articulated, it wasn't broken up. We had a dangerous condition where people were backing out of the garage directly into the entryway. So the primary concern was they were not following the design guidelines.
All right, well, and to that point, I don't think that this building is when it's coming in with a contemporary look. I mean, the design guidelines were proposed to be colonial in nature. So this comes in and it pays more homage to 7 Monument Place and Bank of America than it does to the other products that are in that area.
Do we actually have a directive to be colonial style in
Really?
Northborough?
Yeah.
That's what the design reviews guidelines say.
Give me a chapter and verse, please.
Yeah, I'll look it up and send it over to you, because for 3 people who were on the master plan, it's interesting to see this nice modernistic building come in to an area that people throw their hands up at 7 Monument Place. They throw their hands up at Hillside Grill. They throw their hands up at 109 West being against the back of the property with 5 different fences.
Lisa, these comments aren't true. okay? So it's not true about Hillside Grill, okay? There's been a lot of other buildings that don't look colonial that have been approved as they go along. I think this is a dramatic, I mean, this is a huge change from the last applicant who put the building in there, right? I think there's been a lot of detail, and I think in the end, it'll look really good. So I don't think those comments that you're making are true, especially on the hillside. That is not true. So let's just try and these are two architects who, yes, sat on the master plan, who know what they're doing and helped write the design guidelines. And nothing in the design guidelines says that every building in Northborough has to look colonial.
And this is not a modern building. This is not a modern building. I design modern buildings, and it's modern in the time that it's built, but everything about it, I mean, Tom has been very careful to acknowledge specific historical styles and to make sure that the individual elements of each elevation retain the same style. And he explained that in the last presentation.
I heard that. I watched it again last night, and I'm agreeing that you all feel the same way, and I feel differently. I just think it's too big, and I think it's too modern, and it's too bad because I think that area just can't win. So that's all I'm going to say about it.
Well,
Okay, so
tell me how it's
if I
too
could just
big.
comment about, Lisa, you asked about the roof, and we told you about the roof and agreed with what you wanted was an architectural asphalt shingle. What else are you looking for in specific? Is it the way the windows are placed? Is it the siding? What is specific? Because that's how design review works. You look at the details with the architect and you try to move them around or change them. So what about these specific renderings do you not like? Other than
It's
saying, "I
heavy
don't
on
like
the
whole thing."
roof. The roof is very heavy. It's an integral part of the piece. On the side views, where you don't see the roof coming down, those look fine from that angle. But having all that black coming down on top, I think is too much. You're going to be 4 stories, you're at 40, and you're at 40 that's level to the ground, where the other building was down in the is a different elevation. So this is going to be taller than the 2 buildings it's next to, and it's going to be imposing. I think that it's something that needs to be said. It's a big building for the area in between the other 2. That the one next to it for Renovo is a beautiful building, and it fills the space nicely. I think this will overshadow it, and I don't think that it's I just don't think it's the right style. I know that, Frank Lloyd Wright.
Are you saying the building to the left of it, the 1-story building, is better?
Oh, absolutely. I think it's better. It's
So you
not really
wanna
1
keep-
story. It's got another roof on it to make it 2, but it certainly is a much more attractive building, and it goes with the banks around it, and it goes with the senior homing next to it. But this jumps out at you as a totally different structure, just like 7 Monument Place does.
Did I address the issue of scale and height here? The 96 West Main Street is 8,130 square feet. And its mid-roof or allowable roof height is 26 and its ridge is 32. 82 on the right side is 6,000 square feet. Its mid-roof height is 31 and its ridge is 37. The footprints of the 2 flanking buildings are larger than what I'm proposing here, which you can see on the 2 site plans. So in terms of the scale of the footprint, the middle building at 90 is smaller. The ridge line, or the allowable roof height of the building I'm proposing at 90, is identical to the building on the right. The one on the left is a little bit lower, but it's a bigger first floor, smaller footprint. So in terms of scale in area and scale of height, it's proportional to the surrounding buildings.
What's the
In
square
terms of its
footage of this
architectural
building?
style, I'm using the same vocabulary that the flanking buildings and most of the buildings along Main Street are. It's a
I don't
modern
see-
contemporary interpretation of those vocabularies, but I certainly think it's very compatible with the architecture we have on Main Street.
What's the square footage of this?
It's 7,632 square feet, which is less than 90 Main Street, which is West Main, which is the building to the left, and a little bit more than the one to the right. But there's nothing in the bylaw that says that proposed buildings have to be equal to or less than the surrounding buildings. We're
I'm
well
not saying
below.
that. I'm saying that it's up to us to look at the size and scale of it. We didn't think the other one's size and scale was proper. This building is, without really having that type of rendition like we just saw with One Lyman, is difficult to see what it will look like between the two buildings without having that type of elevation. When you have a big black roof, that's going to be one of the big elements of the building. I don't see other buildings in town that look like this. I don't know which one you might be referring to, but I don't see anything in the downtown area that has that style to it.
Well, it's not meant to be a copy of an existing structure. I'm using the vocabulary of what we call the classical vernacular to create a contemporary building. And it's compatible in terms of scale and detailing to everything I've seen along the street. It borrows elements from various to create a unique structure.
Well, I'm not saying it's not unique. It is unique. It's very unique. But I'm saying that it looks more like the 7 Monument Place building, which I don't feel is correct down there architecturally. And there's so little information on here that it's a wing and a prayer. It's like, well, Tom will take care of it. And I think we don't let anybody else do that. And I don't think we should do that.
I think that's an unfair
What do
statement.
you mean a wing and a prayer?
As always, unfair statements, but I made the statement and I'm not going to
Okay,
back
so-
down from what I'm saying. I don't
So
like it.
that's, Lisa, I think you've given your point. You obviously
All
don't
right.
like the design, you don't like the building, you don't like the, what they're presenting to us. So
Okay.
we need to move forward on that. Okay, so we're all in agreement with the landscape. I don't think we had any questions about the signage. The applicant was having a signage on the exterior. Was there going to be any signage on the building at all?
Potentially, but at this point, they're going to rely on the ground sign for identification.
Okay, okay. And then after that, they'll follow the sign bylaw.
Exactly.
And then with regards to the lighting, I think we were all in agreement with the lighting. There was no questions from the last meeting on the lighting.
Well, we haven't been able to get the photometric plan completed, so that'll have
Okay.
to be submitted later.
Okay. 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 All right. So let's go around through each so we can help this applicant move forward, because I know that, what is your time frame as far as getting forward to the next permitting board? Are you looking for the month of February? Or are you looking for the month of March?
We should be ready to submit probably I think next week, this applications could go in.
Okay.
So I don't know if I don't think that's enough time to be the February meetings. So it'd probably be the March.
Yeah, it is. You'd have to have 30 days to get in. So you would like to get your application in next week for the March meeting. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. And so if someone can remind me, are we meeting with Judy Barrett next meeting as next week as well, or?
Yes,
Okay, and that date is on, was it the 18th or the 19th?
18.
18.
18th. And Bob, if you could help us, when would their application need to be in?
For the ZBA.
Yeah, the March ZBA meeting.
Hold on a second, I'll look it up.
Okay. So if I understand, what is missing from these designs are your photometric plan?
Correct.
And when would you be able to get that done by?
Well, I was told it was in the works, but it wasn't going to be available for today. So
Okay,
it certainly will be in before the next time you meet.
okay, okay. All right, so if we can go down through our checklist, we know that we're all in approval and agreement with the landscape. We're all in approval and agreement with the signage. We're all in approval and agreement with the lighting, as long as the photometrics plan is in compliance with the design review standards. We're all it seems to be in approval with the site plan, but it's the design of the building that we seem to have not a majority rule on. Okay, vote on. So having said that, is there anything else that I'm missing or that the applicant is missing to be able to move forward with their application for the next permitting board?
Kathy, I think you meant unanimous approval
Yes.
instead of majority approval because
Yes,
we do have
unanimous,
majority.
Thank you. Sorry about that. So I don't think there's anything else that is missing on this. Bob, is there anything that you know is missing from this that you can help with the applicant so they can get their application in full compliance with the permitting board?
I can't really think of anything. In terms of the schedule of the next ZBA meeting, I thought I had that paper scheduled. I'm working from home. I thought I had that paper, but I don't, and it's on the computer that I can't reach from my remote computer at this moment.
Yeah.
So I don't have the exact dates. I can get those to you as soon as we get off.
Okay,
In terms of other things, I need to see a floor plan of the second and third floor of the apartment layouts.
I sent those to Kathy. So she has them. I can email them to you, Bob.
That would be great.
I can send you the code review as well.
Yeah, that would be great. Yeah, send me everything you have. I'll take a look at it. And I'll send out any comments I have that's going to affect the boards.
I think I sent you the zoning interpretation form maybe yesterday.
I have that. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Make sure you got it.
Just for your information, Vito, there's a new one we've been using.
Oh, okay.
It's got a little more information. I'll send you the blank.
Okay. I can
All right.
fill that out.
okay. All right, so I think they'll be meeting the week of the 22nd, the permitting board. So I would assume 30 days would be February 22nd. So you would have pretty much the next 10 days to get your application ready to submit to them. Okay, so the applicant has everything that they need to do to come to make their application complete for the next permitting board. And if we can just take a vote on this application, whether you agree with everything that we just discussed, and then the applicant can go to the next step. So I'll just do a roll call right now. And then Dave,
Yep.
so do you agree with everything here?
Oh, I'm in favor.
In favor, okay. Diana,
Also in favor.
okay. Lisa,
Well, you know, I'm not, no.
not in favor, okay. Tom has excused himself, and myself, Michelle, I am in favor. Okay, so you have a 3-to-1 vote in favor. So as long as you can get your photometrics plan that was missing from it and there are no issues from it, it seems like most of everything is complete on your design. Personally, myself, Raquel and Mark, I think you have a very good looking building. I'm looking forward to seeing it go up. If the Zoning Board of Appeals has any questions for us, they'll certainly come back to design review, but that seems to be your next step after this. All right. Welcome to Northborough. All right,
Thank you.
thank you.
guys.
Thank
So
you.
Jim, if you can take Raquel and Mark out and Vito out, and we're going to wrap up the final part of our meeting. Thank you. Okay, so guys, we have 3 sets of minutes to review here. I understand after looking at some emails that Dave, you were approved all the minutes with no changes. Diana, you approved all the minutes with no changes. I approved all the minutes with no changes. Tom, did you have any changes to these minutes, and Lisa as well?
No,
Yep, I have some small ones.
Okay,
So if you go to January 15th, in the 0 Bartlett Street, they, next to last bullet under 0 Bartlett Street, before comments from board members, says an additional 12 acres of conservation restricted land will be added. That should be 13. It's noted somewhere else.
so we would have to have staff verify that.
Let me find it in the paper, but that would be, that's one.
Could be a typo, but we'll have staff verify that. If it's
Yeah,
13,
it's
we'll
probably just
change
a
it. If
typo.
not, we'll keep it at the accurate 12.
On October
we-
29th?
So Lisa,
Yes,
we're just talking about January 15th minutes. Is that the only
Oh,
change?
all right.
that we're-
that's it then.
Okay, so let me do a roll call to make sure that if for, it is 13 acres and it's a typo, that staff will change that. Otherwise, it'll stay with the additional 12 acres. And then we'll go through the roll call if you approve the minutes as submitted with the one change if necessary. Tom,
I approve.
Dave,
I approve.
Diana,
Approved.
and Lisa.
I approve.
Okay, let's go on to the January 10th minutes. So on the January 10th minutes, I approve, Dave approves, Diana approves, Tom, do you approve?
I do.
Lisa, any changes?
I don't even have that one. I'm just going to recuse myself. I haven't seen it.
Okay, we'll go through approving the minutes. I approve, Dave,
Oh, no, it's okay. I'm sorry.
Lisa, they were sent in there, all the other emails.
No, I have it. I have it. And there's no repairs.
Okay, so
Fine.
Dave,
Approve.
Tom,
Approve.
Diana,
Approved.
Lisa.
Approved.
Okay, let's go on to the February 14th minutes. I have no changes to the February 14th minutes. Dave is approved, Diana's approved. Tom, have you reviewed them and do you approve them?
I approve.
And Lisa,
I approve.
okay? So we just did, we'll just formality purposes, we'll do a roll call. Dave, do you approve the minutes?
Yes.
Tom, do you approve the minutes?
Yes.
Diana approved the minutes?
Yes.
And Lisa approved the minutes?
Yes.
Okay, and myself, I approve the minutes, so it's we all approve the minutes for February 14th. So those are the only 3 minutes that were given to us. There are 3 sets of minutes to approve. I believe we're up to date and all the other minutes have been approved.
Really?
Okay,
We approve March to October? We have a lot of minutes that she sent.
yeah,
Quick question, you were saying February 14th?
yep, I had February 14th.
Last
From-
year.
From last year?
Oh.
Yeah,
hmm.
yeah, from last year.
From 2020?
Yep. These are all
Okay.
2020.
Okay,
But
These are all 2020, all right.
yeah.
But I mean, she sent us a lot of these. She sent March 4th, 11th, September 16th, and all the way to November 19th. Well, we are-
I got an email from her on the minutes. Hello, just sent over a set, and she did January 15th, January 10th, and February 10th. I don't have any others. Oh, wait a
Does
minute.
anybody else have them? I don't know how I got them.
So she did, does everyone review the March 4th and the March 11th, 2020 minutes?
All right. I have.
Yes.
Okay. And I see her other one here that has that. Okay, so let's, if we have 5 more minutes, let's try and go through the March 4th and March 11th. Okay. Okay. Tom, have you reviewed those minutes? We'll start with March 4th.
Well, you realize that many of these meetings I wasn't in attendance, but I
Okay,
read your minutes.
okay.
But-
Okay.
I approve them.
Okay, so the March 4th, you attended that meeting. Does anyone, can we all review it quickly? And then we'll try to get at least through the March ones before we move on. So on the March 4th, you were in attendance, Tom, and just as an FYI, you were also in attendance for the March 11th.
All right.
Okay, so just as an FYI on that. Okay, so let me get out of here and then on to the board members. Okay, Diana, have you reviewed the 2 March meeting minutes? And then if so, do you approve?
I have and I approve.
Okay, Dave?
I agree.
Dave approves of March 4th. Tom?
Yes.
Okay, you approve the March 4th minutes from 2020. And then Lisa.
Yes, I do.
Okay, and myself, I reviewed them and I approve as well. So the board approves the March 4th, 2020 minutes. Now let's just take a look at, if you can, because I know we're on the clock and everybody has to get back to work. So we'll try to get through as many of these as we possibly can. The March 11th, 2020 minutes. We have everyone attended. That was on the Cedar Hill. So does everyone, let's go through the roll call. Tom, do you approve the March 11th?
I do.
Dave,
Approve.
Diana,
Approved.
and Lisa?
I approve.
Okay, and myself, I approve. Okay. So we've gone through January, February, and the March 2020 minutes. So let's now move forward to the next set. Let's see what I can find here. That's that. That's where she said that. That's yeah. So the next one would be September 16th.
Yes.
And looking at those minutes, if everyone can call them up, that's the Hudson Street and the Southwest Cutoff and Hudson Street again. So has everyone had a chance to call that up on the computer and take a look at it and review them and if they approve them?
Is it September 16th is in? Yep.
Yep. Does anyone have any changes to those minutes? Okay, we'll go to the roll call. Tom, do you approve
I
those
approve.
minutes?
Yep.
Dave,
I approve.
Diana,
Approved.
and Lisa?
I approve.
And myself, I approve. So the September 16th minutes are approved. Okay, can we hang in there for just a couple more? Looks like we've got a couple more. For
Couple more.
October 15th minutes, it looks like we're all in attendance as well. So 50 Southwest Cutoff. Okay. Does anyone have any changes to those minutes? You guys can take a look. Okay. Has everyone had a chance to review them?
Yep.
Okay.
I think I have a what is it? A correction. It says 4 light poles in the parking area, same style as 130 Southwest Cutoff. Not sure of this address. He wasn't referring to 130 Southwest Cutoff. It was 130 Main Street. That was Tim Shea's building. Across from the White Cliffs was what he was referring to on the lights.
So we'll go back and have them verify that it was actually.
Because his other thing on West Main is 109. So 130 is the main street up here by White Cliffs.
Okay, so we'll confirm that that was actually what he was referencing, and then we can make the change. Because usually that's what he'll do, is reference to the style of a pole that he's using at another property that he designed. Okay, so with that, just one change. Let's go through the roll call and we'll just have verified that that's actually correct. Tom,
I'm agreed.
Dave,
I'll approve.
Diana,
Approved.
and Lisa.
Approved.
And myself, I approve. Okay, and then the next set of minutes that was on here was 10:29. That's a continued discussion on Southwest Cutoff as well. And does anyone have any feedback on that?
Yes, I do. Under the comments from the board members, the 4th bullet in, the architectural style is too industrial for business zone, not opposed to use, but opposed to architectural design. We weren't allowed to discuss use. I don't think that not opposed to use should be in there. I should think that would be removed. I definitely was opposed to that use.
We discussed use a lot today.
Yeah. Well, so the use was approved.
No, the use wasn't approved. It wasn't discussed ever.
Okay. So we'll have to table that because Lisa, we would have to go back and verify this information. Again, we're going
Okay.
back to October. So let's table these minutes and then let's go back and ask whoever wrote up the minutes just to verify that statement that was there. Okay.
Okay.
We have a couple more to get through. Is the board in agreement with just tabling that so we can figure out what unless Bob, you agree, or do we need to go back and look at the research?
Probably should go back and take a look at it.
Okay, all right, we'll do that. Thank you. So then let's move forward. We've got, it looks like 2 more sets of minutes and then we would be current. The next one is November 10th, 2020.
Of October 15th?
October 15th, we already approved. We just approved.
November 10th? No, November 10th is what we changed. That was where the 30 Southwest cutoff was.
That's what you told me. We were reviewing the October 15th one, Lisa, before.
Well, that wasn't on there.
We're going in the order that they were sent to us. September 16th's been approved. We just finished discussing and approving October 15th. You were in a disagreement with one statement on October 29th,
okay.
and we're moving on to November 10th.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay, November 10th. Has everyone had a chance to review these minutes? Do we have any changes for the minutes? Suggestions?
That November 10th is the one I referred to on the 30 Southwest cutoff Main Street.
Okay. All right. Okay, so we'll have them go back and look at that for November 10th with that change, because we have something in here that in our set of minutes, it says not sure if this address is correct.
That's right.
So we will confirm that and let's go back with the board approvals. Tom, do you accept these minutes?
I do.
Dave?
I accept the minute.
Diana?
Approved.
And Lisa?
With that correction, yes.
Okay, and myself, I approve. Okay. And then the very last set of minutes that were sent to us was from November 19th. Okay, and does anyone have any changes to those minutes?
Nope.
Okay, let me just get back here for 1 sec. All right, so we'll go through roll call again. Tom, do you approve the minutes?
Yes.
Dave, do you approve the minutes?
I approve the minute.
Diana, do you approve the minutes?
I approve.
And Lisa, do you approve the minutes?
Yes.
Okay, and I myself approve the minutes. Thank you. So we will go back to staff and tell them that all the minutes have been approved with the exception of October 29th, at which we will have that one statement in there verified, and we can discuss at the next meeting that we have with Judy Barrett, and then wrap up that and see if there are any more minutes we can approve at that time.
It's not really October 29th. It's November 10th for that street change.
No, I know that. We were talking about where you didn't want to approve the October 29th minutes. Yeah, okay. So we'll see everybody at the next meeting, which is next week, to discuss the design review standards for duplexes with Judy Barrett. And then everyone should have a good day and a good week, and we'll see you then. And so what we'll do right now is do a roll call to end the meeting. And can we have a motion to end the meeting?
So moved.
Thank you.
I'll second the motion.
Okay. Tom?
Second.
Say aye. 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 Dave?
Yep.
Yep.
Third.
Okay. Diana
Aye.
and Lisa.
Aye.
Okay. Meeting's over. We'll see you guys next week.